I just saw 14,605 different metas. It's time. What's going on, everybody? It's Jack. And if you're watching this, it can only mean one thing: Madden 23 season is here, which means Madden's back, football's back, content's back, even Backstreet's back. But more importantly, it means that there's a brand new meta to be shaped with Madden 23's launch. And while I could predict the meta fairly well, I figured what better way to predict the meta than to show you the five most important things that shape the meta every year. Because that means you can jump right into the game and you could look for these things, look for these hallmarks within offenses, and you can shape the meta just like anybody else. Because these things are every year how the meta is developed throughout the season. Before we get into that top five list, though, I do want to explain what the meta is and kind of how it's a misnomer to certain things and how other people use it. Meta typically means most effective tactics available. However, it doesn't just mean most effective tactics, because just like in Call of Duty or just like in some like Hearthstone or whatever, just because it's the most effective doesn't mean that it's usable to everybody. Meta also means that it's accessible and that a novice player can have a fair amount of success with it, and a higher level player will have more success with it. Kind of bridges the gap. So that way, if a novice player picks up the meta offense, they're going to have more success than running off meta stuff or asking Madden, because the meta stuff has proven to be more effective. But that doesn't necessarily mean effective and difficult, because you can run something as a pro that is completely off meta, but if you've mastered it, you're going to be great. But if a novice picks it up and they try to run your off meta offense, they're going to look like crap. And so there is that discrepancy. So when you think about most effective tactics available, you have to understand that it also means accessible tactics available, which is why certain formations tend to be more used over the years than others. While you still see some pros doing off meta stuff, and you're going to not have that same kind of success. All right, coming in at number 5, corner routes. Yeah, corner routes. See, here's the thing. Every year, corner routes help dictate what formations are used. But more importantly, good corner routes. And that definition of good varies every year. Good corner routes one year might be getting deeper than certain zones and getting over the top. Certain corner routes might have a sharper break and a harder break to the sideline to beat man coverage. So it really depends on the game and the year that dictates what a good corner route is. And a good corner route within a formation is more likely to be a formation that gets used. It's why Hot Route Master was so successful over the past couple of seasons, because those corner routes were always the good corner route. And they've changed the Hot Route Master corner. So now we're going to have to go back to looking for formations that have corner routes that are actually pre-made to be effective in this version of Madden. Number 4, blocking. A meta formation is only a good formation if it can block meta defenses, meta blitzes. You're not going to see a formation that cannot block meta defensive blitzes, because if a meta formation can't block a blitz, it's not going to be used. You have to be able to play against the top defensive formations in a given year with the top offensive formations in a given year. If you're going to have a formation that can't block anything, or the running back doesn't react, or the tight end can't do something, that formation is not going to be used over a formation that you can max protect and pick up a blitz, because you need to be able to base your offense out of the meta formation, and you have to be able to do and deal with whatever the defense throws at you. If you can't deal with whatever the defense throws at you out of the meta formation, it's not going to be a meta formation. Coming in at number 3, good shotgun runs. Now you might be thinking, what do you mean? There's not that many shotgun runs. Well, see, here's the deal. Shotgun runs vary from year to year. Some year inside zone is a great run. Some years, the 0-1 trap was the run that you wanted. There were years where halfback draw was the good run. So, depending on how defense develops, depends on what the meta run is out of the shotgun. It might be halfback base. It might be wide zone. It might be a trap. It might be power. It might be inside zone. It all depends on how defense develops, will depend on what the meta run is out of the shotgun. So if your formation doesn't have the meta shotgun run, it's less likely to be an effective running formation. And then you won't have any ability at all to keep your opponent off balance. They'll be able to sell out and blitz you because they know you're not going to run the ball. And they know that if you're not running the ball, they can just tee off and just play complete pass coverage, and you're never going to have the threat of a run. Coming in at number 2, good secondary formations. See, here's the thing. If you're only going to have one formation that's usable in your playbook, you're not going to have a good time. You're just not. So you have to be able to audible around to different formations and have a fair amount of success with them. Now, just because you have the meta formation with the meta plays, the meta runs, good blocking, all that, you could probably get away running that 90% of the time. But there will be times in the game where your opponent is going to lock that up. They're going to make the right calls, and you're going to want to have something different to throw them a different look. So being able to have other formations within your playbook that are equally effective is how the meta shapes up, right? Especially in terms of picking playbooks, because you need playbooks that have a little bit of diversity. I'm not saying you need a ton. I'm not saying you need 20 formations that are usable at a competitive level. But if you have 2 or 3 formations that are usable at a competitive level and you can kind of move around and do different things, that's how meta playbooks get decided throughout the season. Okay, future Jack here. There's going to be an honorable mention here. It kind of piggybacks off of number 2, but it's not exactly the same. So, my honorable mention for how a meta shapes up, especially with picking playbooks, is good secondary running first formations. See, years past, one of the best formations in the game was strong close, right? It had off tackle, dive, quick toss. It was great. You could pass a little bit out of it, but it was definitely a run first formation. You need a formation in your playbook that you can run the ball out of, run it down your opponent's throat, clock the ball, and get out of there with a win. Now, there were years where you could get away running like a heavy I form set, 2 tight ends, right? Sometimes you had the near or the far formation with the ability to run like a fullback dive and just pound the ball right down the middle of the field. Whatever the case is, whatever it is, a meta playbook has some formation in it that you need to be comfortable enough to run and run the ball out of it. Whether that's ace pair chief, or I think it's single back wing stack now, but whether it's single back wing stack or the Rams bunch X nasty or whatever the case is, strong close still, eye tight, you need to be able to run the ball first with a couple of passes to make sure that your opponent respects the throwing ability of your offense out of that formation. But that is one of the most important ways that playbooks get shaped in terms of meta selections. And coming in at number 1, gun bunch. That's it. I wish I had something else, but like it's really not a joke. Gun bunch is always going to be meta. Everyone likes it. Everyone's been running it for years. It's never not going to be meta. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter what they do to it. People are going to run gun bunch. Gun bunch is always going to be part of the meta. And you've got to just accept that. And you have to be able to defend against it. And you should probably learn how to run it at least a little bit. Because if you don't know what's coming, you're not going to be able to stop it. But it's been run for years and years and years. So if by now you haven't figured it out, I'm sorry for you. But now's a good time to start. But at the end of the day, gun bunch will be meta. All right, that's going to do it for me and the top 5 ways to predict the meta for offense in Madden 23. Make sure you guys follow the socials, all the links down in the description. You guys know the deal by now. Hopefully it's a good year. I'm cautiously optimistic for the game. If it's good, I'm going to play it. I'll stream it, content, the whole thing. But don't hold me to it, because if the game turns out to be a lot like last year, I have absolutely no problem just sticking with Call of Duty. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I want it to be a good year. I like Madden. I enjoy Madden. I want it to be good. So here's to a good year in Madden 23. Until next time, I'm out.